Motivated by desire, we develop a particular drive and focus, which creates an extension of life possibilities. Then, guarding our sensitivities, we become able to open up to have a more subtle visionary concentration of attention, and so find uniqueness in our perceptions and attitudes of being. These are the 5 Sabian symbols.
I remember that Rudyard said something about like the first 5 degrees has to do with the action, what the sign do. The second 5 degrees have to do with emotional aspects and cultural aspects, how we feel about that. And the third expression, it would be more to do with individualization or conceptualization. So it's the first time in drive, it's the first time Aries per se has an individuality as, okay, I am me and I am going that direction. And that's how I feel drive.
It's motivation in a particular direction to achieve a particular goal. It centers me with my attention focused much more than usually. And that focus, together with some kind of inner appetite, which has an emotional quality or a felt quality at least, energizes purpose. So I see drive as a directed force. There are those people who drive through life, and some actually feel driven, and they pass that driven quality into the world as drive, and they push through, and that doesn't necessarily engender courtesy and politeness. They're going to get what they want to get, and so they drive forward through obstacles and objections and difficulties and so on. So I see drive as the motivating force in a particular direction.
Yeah, I also see drive as movement in a particular direction with a particular outcome maybe, or a particular achievement in mind. I am also very aware of I'm also very aware that it's not always healthy, or I have witnessed that in my own life. I have quite often propelled through, pushed through, because I have set my attention on a particular place or a particular goal, and perhaps that has not always been aligned. You know, sometimes my body is saying no, and still I drive through. And sometimes it's not aligned kind of spiritually or mentally, and still I drive through. So I noticed as I considered drive that there is balance to be found as well, or there is, maybe balance isn't the word, but there is a proper place for drive, and there is a shadow to it when it is overutilized or underutilized.
I think it's excellent to notice what you have just said, that if you look at the expression of those 5 degrees from 6 to 10 in Aries, you will notice that the first one is all about punch, drive, and then the other 4 are saying, however, be sensitive, don't do it too hard. I mean, I'm summarizing it very simplistically, but you've made exactly the point that there is some force implied within drive, and there is this Aries quality of, I want this and I'm going to push through whether or not, and the next 4 degrees of the batch are saying, well, that's not always okay, be a bit more sensitive, please, and I think it's great that you've drawn attention to that in that way.
The image that's in my mind, as you've been sharing, all of you, is that of a stagecoach led by a team of 6 horses. And yes, a single horse may well be able to pull that stagecoach in the direction it wants to head, but if it enlists the help of those other 5 horses, it goes further and faster. When we've identified what drive is for us, if we can then enlist others in our endeavor to get from A to B, we can get there faster.
Propel or carry along by force in a specific direction, or psychology, an innate biologically determined urge to attain a goal or satisfy a need, emotional and sexual drives, for example. So they've all got a commonality of essential movement forward, but there's all that sort of...
I think that commonality is desire. Actually, what makes you move from where you are to another point is something that you don't have and you really want to have. And maybe in this expression, yeah, the first degree is quite direct, like there's only one side of this square. But I think of Jupiter now being in this crystal gazer, and it's also a way of more subtle energy of this drive, where you don't know exactly where you're going. You know you don't want to be where you are, and you like move on. But every time you move on, like the horizon is not stick. It also moves, and it may be in shadows or in like watery feelings. So you're not sure. You know you're going. You feel the energy. You have the drive, but where exactly, and if it is just one objective, or it may change as very fast. That also happens, at least to me.
It's good. I think the inner feeling of drive is not necessarily expressed as a unified direction. That's your point.
Exactly. Not a single line, not a direct line.
I agree with you.
Yeah. Let me try to explain. Of course, Rudyard's words are much better than mine, but I love this chapter. Each sign, they has two, I think they call it principles. So then the 4, the 5th, and the 6th just go again, do, feel, and think or conceptualize, but in another principle. In the case of Aries, you first have desire, and then you have potency. I think this is like the expression. So for desire, the first expression is emergence, the second would be drive, and the third would be honor. But once the desire has consolidated itself as an individualized thing with these 15 degrees, this is like the pull and the push inside each sign. In the case of Aries, it first desires, but then it finds that it has the potency to actually achieve what it wants. And that it has to do with the last 3 expressions.
I definitely felt invited recently into what one would call the void. You know, can you sit in the void? And no matter how hard I tried, so no matter what I attempted to do, every do was thwarted in some way, shape or form. And my invitation to go back to the void is there again. No doing, being, no doing, being. And it has been a little bit of a dance for me in the last year or so, maybe a bit longer than a year. Probably a bit longer than a year, to simply to accept that the void is an being in the void is an active part of life.
There is a drive necessary to move you into that mystic state, which I was trying to learn. The teacher that I had was well into this. He did 40-day retreats every year, and I wanted to be like him. And I just don't have that amount of drive to do nothing for so long. It's a bigger challenge than I've met so far.
I don't think I have it. I don't think I have it either, James, which is why it's taking me so long, because it's like no, your drive of it is like this constant dialogue. Like I remember the void and I stay there for a little while, and then I just have the drive to do, and so I get doing, and then I do too much, and then it's like that. How, you know, the line between the yin and the yang, the doing and the being driven to do and being driven to be in the void.
I have for a while dedicated myself to a more mystical, spiritual way of being, and it did actually come to pass that I was energized and enthused and more able to do the meditative work than anything external, day by day, week by week, even month by month, for a sustained period. So that took a lot of training to get into it. And then you know, I was seduced, shall we say, back into the worldliness. But I can understand that there is such a thing as the drive for nothingness. It does exist. It's not just a silly idea. It's a feeling. It's a motivation.
It has to do with where you focus your attention. Like for me, it has to do with I try to think of listening more than speaking. And listening, when you're listening, you're actually doing something, but it's a passive thing. You just receive. So you're focused on everything it's around you, but on the same time, you're not doing something particular. You're just focused on everything at the same time, on the same level.
If you have a strong why, you can justify any how.